Welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on your Memorial Day here on Marcus Street. We're going to talk about some Memorial Day events coming up. Obviously, the big news of the day. The debt ceiling negotiation has made a breakthrough. And we're going to talk about that. It doesn't seem like anybody's happy other than maybe Biden and McCarthy. But there are some positives, there's some negatives. We're going to talk about that on the program, just making sure everything's up and running. So today is Memorial Day, and the New York Post put together maybe an index, if you want to call it that, how costs for your barbecue have skyrocketed. No surprise. We know that going to the grocery store is much more expensive. Well, Memorial Day barbecues are under fire, it says here, as food prices continue to soar. Inflation, weary Americans firing up their grill this Memorial Day. Consumers can expect to pay an average of 9% more than they did just last year for a family-sized selection of barbecue essentials. Those basic costs will cost you and your family around $27.32 this year, compared with an already spendy $25.07 last year. That's coming from Data Assembly Grocery Price Index. They use data from 150,000 stores. Okay. I guess it's the condiments that are costing us so much money. Most people will be paying more for the hamburger bun and condiments than they did a year ago. And the price of beer has also increased. Well, not if you're drinking Bud Light. David Ortega, a food economist and associate professor at Michigan State University, told the New York Post, in 1 year, the price of a 32-ounce bottle of ketchup has surged 28%, going from $4.08 to $5.22, according to 2022 and 2023 statistics. Okay. A 20-ounce container of mustard, if you care, you want to go through all of them, 13%, up 13% from $2.07 last year to now $2.34. We're not going to read all these. But your Memorial Day picnic has cost you a lot more money this year. Now, speaking of a lot more money, the debt limit deal is set to begin with the debates in Congress. I'm not sure when they come back. I mean, I know they're off and they're in district, I think, the whole week, but they were told to be ready on 24 hours notice, so I'm not sure when they'll start the voting process. We're going to take a look when we come back from break, what people are saying about it. Again, the good, the bad, the ugly. I was a little surprised that happened over the weekend. Everybody was home except for McCarthy, apparently, and Biden. So we're going to talk about that when we come back. Oh, on the program, I didn't even mention, Steuben County Veterans Services Agency Director Gary Smith is going to join us. That's coming up in just a little bit. As always, you can contact me if you have any questions for Mr. Smith or just in general. If you'd like to relay a message, please contact me. All right. We'll be back with Frankly Speaking here. Oops, let's take that off the screen. We'll be back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us. Studio. So, a debt limit deal faces that battle for passage. According to Bloomberg, no one's happy. A lot for people to dislike, according, again, to Bloomberg. Biden and McCarthy, in separate appearances on Sunday, projected confidence. McCarthy claimed 95% of House Republicans are very excited by the deal. We're going to take a look in a little bit about what he had to say, as well as the president. Representative Chip Roy of Texas tweeted Sunday that fellow Republicans haven't been educated yet on the deal's shortcomings. They will be, though, he promised. Shortly after the deal was announced, Ralph Norman of South Carolina called it insanity, and Dan Bishop of North Carolina responded with an emoji of a face being sick. Very adult-like. We're going to take a look at what exactly is in the deal. CNN put this together, so take it with a grain of salt, but it addresses, of course, the debt ceiling. The agreement would suspend the debt limit through January 1st of 2025, which is a smart move because you have the presidential race and the like coming up in 2024. It caps non-defense spending. Under the deal, non-defense spending would remain relatively flat in fiscal 2024 and increase by 1% in 2025 after certain adjustments to appropriations were made. That's according to White House officials. It protects veterans' Medicare. The deal would maintain full funding for veterans' health care and would increase support for the PACT Act Toxic Exposure Fund by nearly $15 billion. It expands work requirements. Now, this is one of the major sticking points for Republicans. The agreement calls for temporary broadening of work requirements for certain adults receiving food stamps. Currently, childless, able-bodied adults ages 18 to 49 are only able to get food stamps for 3 months out of every 3 years unless they are employed at least 20 hours a week or meet other criteria. The agreement would increase the upper limit of the mandate to age 55 in phases, according to the bill text. However, the deal would expand exemptions for veterans, people who are homeless, and former foster youth in the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, or SNAP, as food stamps are formerly known. So now food stamps are called SNAP benefits, and all the changes would end in 2030. Now it's going to claw back, it says here, COVID-19 relief funds. The deal would rescind $30 billion in funds from the COVID-19 relief packages that Congress passed to respond to the pandemic. It would retain $5 billion in funding to accelerate the development of COVID-19 vaccines and treatments, and funding for vaccines and treatments for the uninsured, according to a White House source. So a lot of this coming from the White House. It cuts Internal Revenue Service funding, which we hopefully will have a chance to talk about here in just a little bit. The agreement would cancel the total fiscal year 2023 staffing funding request that the House GOP says would go for new IRS agents. Miranda Devine had an interesting piece. Again, hopefully we can speak on it, but she was not happy with how kind of weak that part of this deal was. It restarts student loan repayments. Under the deal, borrowers would have to begin paying back their student loans at the end of the summer, as the Biden administration has already announced. According to another source familiar with the debt ceiling talks, the pause has been in effect since the COVID-19 pandemic began. It maintains climate and clean energy measures, so that could be quite an issue for Republicans. And also, it expedites the pipeline in West Virginia, so that must be for Joe Manchin's vote. The agreement would also speed the creation of the Mountain Valley Pipeline, a natural gas pipeline in West Virginia. So that's just a very quick overview of what we're being told is in that deal for the debt ceiling increase. We're going to talk more about it in depth. Don't forget, Steuben County Veteran Service Agency Director Gary Smith will be our guest. So if you are a veteran or if you know a veteran, get a hold of them. Make sure that they watch here in just a little bit, because you're going to learn a lot, and it's going to be very important what you learn. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Joining me in the studio this morning, Gary Smith. Thanks so much for being on the program.
Well, thank you for having me, Frank. I really enjoy the opportunity to get out here and speak about veterans and some of the programs we have.
Well, I took you away from your Memorial Day.
That is not a problem. Memorial Day is a great time to talk about veterans.
It's perfect. And this is the M.A. Neal Financial Services section of our program. So you recently just received a major grant. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
So New York State recently has opened up a program that's been in the works for about 10 years. It's called the Joseph Dwyer, PFC Joseph Dwyer program. It started out of Suffolk County, New York. Okay. He was a veteran that, as he came back from his deployments, as we well know, we've been a military and at war for over 20 years now. Just recently,
Isn't that
we're coming to the end of this.
Yeah.
he lost his life due to some of the issues that the unseen issues, wounds of war that we don't necessarily look at all the time. You know, we see the people that come back with the injuries, the physical injuries, but he was dealing with some mental health issues that a lot of veterans deal with that go through extended periods of.
It is a major issue, right?
It is a major issue.
I want to say, I think it was former President Trump used to, when he was campaigning, talk about it. I can't remember how many people it is a day that lose their life to suicide. It was like 16 or something crazy.
Yeah, it's an awful
heartbreaking
number. One is too many.
Yeah.
These people, they go out there, they put on their lives out there for us. They're doing great things. These are our
heroes.
Yeah. These people have volunteered. A lot of these people recently have volunteered during the time of war, knowing what they were going into. So it takes a lot of commitment and courage. And when New York State did this, they started the program about 10 years ago. And they found success in this peer-to-peer program, and it's been running throughout the state in various counties. And now they decided, due to that success, that they should open it to every county in New York State. So every county has this opportunity to.
That's a no-brainer, right? I mean,
yeah.
Why wouldn't it be? Tell us a little bit about what peer-to-peer support looks like.
So peer-to-peer support can be. There was no real designation when New York State opened up the program, how to run a program. They wanted it to be unique to each area of the state, to the veterans that we serve. Some veterans areas of the state have a larger population of maybe younger veterans. Some have older veterans. It's just not younger veterans that we see coming out problem. Sure. It's our older veterans, our Vietnam veterans, our Korean, or what's left of our World War II veterans. All these great generations of veterans that maybe have dealt with these problems. So we want them to get out there in a way and take the stigma away from.
That's a great term.
Dealing with their mental health issues that have caused them marriages, caused them substance abuse, alcohol problems in the past, but do it in a non-invasive way where they feel comfortable and they come in and talking to people about maybe things that they wouldn't have normally talked to the normal person. Maybe even they might not talk to their spouse or significant other about, but they might talk to another veteran about, and through that veteran they can see that maybe how they've got help, and that they didn't even know that. So now that kind of takes the stigma away, gets them back into attracting, maybe lets them live their best life that they deserve to live.
It's got to be easier to talk to someone that knows somewhat what you went through. Have you found it to be successful then?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very successful program as we started up. From the people that I've talked to that have already started up their programs, they're finding a lot of success in it. Because it allows people to get out there on their terms and talk about it. Because you may not want to come in right away and talk to me about it, but I built that trust, that community, that camaraderie, kind of what we left behind in the military. There's a lot of stressors out there that are kind of covered up when we're in the military because of we're on a very fast-paced, go lifestyle. And when we come out and we try to reintegrate back into our civilian life, or civilian form of our life, sometimes it slows down and we start having some of these thoughts and issues and wondering what's out there for us. So,
can people volunteer if you served and you want to help? Is that how this works?
So what is originally going to happen is we're in the process. We're going with the organization we're working with is Veteran One Stop Center of Western New York.
Okay.
They've been doing the program for about 10 years out of Erie and Niagara County. They've recently started programs up in Yates, Livingston County as well. They've started about 6 months ago. They're really taking off and doing a lot of great things up there for veterans.
When does the program officially start? Is it already begun?
So it just went through Steuben County Legislature. They approved it.
Just last week.
Last week on the 22nd of last month. So now we're in the process of looking for a coordinator for the program.
Okay.
So Veteran One Stop of Western New York is hiring a person to run it in Steuben County.
Okay.
Preferably, we'd like a veteran to be in there,
Well,
someone with a lot of military background or experience.
What would you say the goal for the program is for you? What would you like to see?
I want to see veterans be able to come together, build a community in our area, and by doing so, have a support network. I believe in the value. One of the biggest values that we had in the military is we'd never leave a fallen comrade.
Yeah.
So I want it to be a program where when our veterans are out there and if they're down, that we have someone there to help them and pick them back up and carry them forward.
Is it a 24-hour thing, or is it just like, how's that going to work?
So what's going to happen when it?
I know
when
this
it's
is all
fully-
new.
Yeah,
I apologize.
yeah, it's a very new program, and I understand that. It's the idea of it is that it will develop into that. So we're going to have the initial peer support. They're going to recruit, like you asked, if there's going to be volunteer opportunities. We want to. As the veterans get involved, we would like them to volunteer more and take on and help other veterans and set up their smaller peer groups even. And there is a component to where there is 24 hours that they could get someone if they need someone. It's a process we're going to have to work through as the program starts to develop and gets bigger.
Gary Smith is our guest. He's Steuben County Veterans Services Agency Director. Can you stay with us through the break?
Yes, I can.
All right, we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. This is the M.A. Neal Financial Services section of our program, and joining me in the studio is Steuben County Veterans Services Agency Director Gary Smith. Thanks again for staying with us through the break. I want to talk more about this peer-to-peer support. What does the program itself look like? Again, I know this is in its infancy, but tell us a little bit about what it looks like in other counties.
So what some of the other counties have done, and it's been terrific programs, and these programs are free to the veterans. Veterans, sometimes veterans and family members, or veterans and supporters. But it's social engagement and veteran activities such as some of them done fishing trips, coffee and cards, photography classes, art classes, hiking, just any different event out there, and we can build that to whatever our veterans want to do too. So, like I said, they're free events to the veterans to get them out and help them engage with each other.
And the options are kind of limitless. I mean, you can think of it, all these sound like fun events and really are going to build that morale.
That's what we're looking for, is just that build that morale, that sense of unity with each other, and through that unity get them talking to each other and get that peer groups set up.
Great, and you just started, so I'm asking this question, maybe you don't have an answer yet. How if this really speaks to them, they say, I want to be a part of this, can they reach out to you?
Right now, I would say reach out to me. You can call me at my office. My phone number is 607-664-2527. We'll answer any questions I can for you, and as the program gets going, like if we're not running things at this moment, I would keep you in mind as the program starts to get up. Eventually, there will be a website for it, the Steuben County Dwyer website, where people will be able to, as they become familiar with it, look on that and see what activities and what events are going on out there.
Now, what do you specifically, because you're the Steuben County Veterans Services Agency Director, what is the Veterans Services Agency, what do they do? What do they offer?
So New York State tells each county they have to have these offices out there. And what they're designed to do, and what we do, is we help veterans navigate the VA system a lot of times to get help with health care, disability, access to their education benefits through the GI Bill. Any benefit that is out there for the veteran that they may be eligible for, be it state benefit, federal benefit, local benefit, we're there to help them and assist them get that through. So we're kind of the people that can help you kind of maybe cut through a little bit of the red tape there, or we can advocate for you through the VA.
So your day is spent talking to bureaucrats then, is that it? You're the middleman?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes it's much easier than others. But yeah, we're there for the veteran, and sometimes it's just to talk to the veteran and hear him out and see. We try to present the best case for the veteran to the VA or to whatever entity that they need help from.
This is very timely because I just saw there's a big piece at the New York Post where a veteran was struggling to find the help that he needed through the VA. Because like any government agency, it can be, I'm sure, difficult to navigate, to put it kindly.
It is. There's a lot of different things out there, and they can be very meticulous about what they want to see, especially when it comes to paperwork. We do a lot of the paperwork to get them their benefits, the disability health benefits, based on their scenario, their situation.
And I wanted to ask, not just about the peer-to-peer support, but also with the Veteran Service Agency. How can we, the person watching it right now, how can we help you?
Just let people know that we're out there. I think I gave out my phone number earlier there. We try to get out in the community as much as we can. I did an event down in Riverside last fall. They had an event about where the senator came and talked to them about their charter and them becoming a city and how long they've been there. And we sat out there and we talked to veterans through that. So if you have an event out there, invite us. Call me up. I'm willing to come out. We talk to agencies. I've worked with the Office of the Aging a lot to go into places to try to get to veterans that may not be able to come to my office in Bath. So we like to get out there. So if you have an event out there, you have something out there, please contact me. Feel free to reach out. We want to come out and speak to you and get the news out.
That's great. Now, to those thinking about contacting you, especially for this peer-to-peer support, what would you say to them if they're kind of on the fence or worried about this?
So the program is designed to have minimal paperwork on it. It's confidential.
Okay.
That's the way New York State wanted it. They wanted it to be a non-clinical type program, so that you don't have to feel that someone's out there to get you at the end of the day with this program. We want them to know that this is a safe environment for them.
And I love the fact, and I know you said it earlier, but to just reduce that stigma. There's no shame whatsoever in talking to buddies, right? I mean, it doesn't make sense that there's a stigma there.
Right. There's no stigma there. And then, like I said, you can hear from their stories if they have gotten help that there's a lot of people that have already gotten help through various resources that are out there very productive that you would never know. And that it's not no one's out there to take anything from you or
to judge you
so that I think that's the big thing right there is I want them to know that we want this to be a safe environment for them.
Before we go, could you give your phone number one more time?
So my phone number is 607-664-2527, and like I said, feel free to reach out to me. Any questions, any veteran question. If I don't know an answer, I'll try to get it to you.
And you'll be honest.
And I will be honest.
Well, Gary Smith has been our guest, Steuben County Veteran Service Agency Director. Thanks so much for being on the program, and I think it goes without saying, but thank you so much for your service.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. Thanks again to Gary Smith for being a part of the M.A. Neal Financial Services section of our program. We have a surprise guest that I haven't even highlighted on the program yet this morning, a superstar from KZ106.
Boy, that's going back a few years.
It's not Gary Smith. It's Bob Quick. I'm trying to change that off the bottom of the screen. Hold on. Let's see. I'll find that. Hey, Bob, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. Good to see you. This place is awesome.
Isn't this wonderful?
Yeah.
Can you imagine 3 cameras, everything right in this table?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing what just the technology, how it's advanced in just the time that I've been in broadcasting. It's crazy.
Because everybody wanted to be on the streams and things like that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So let's talk about your job, because this actually is very appropriate. Did you see the breaking news on Friday that Michael Printup is retiring from Watkins Glen?
So yeah, I was just as surprised as everybody
Bob, you're
else.
a radio guy. Move the mic closer. Come on.
Hello. Is this thing on? So Michael's been there 15 years, I think, and. Yeah, it's
very
he's
successful.
Done a great job. That is a highlight on the NASCAR schedule every year. I mean, it sells out 8 years running, something like that. It's crazy. Yeah. And Mike's done a great job, and it was a surprise to me. I work for the same company as Mike does.
Yeah,
okay?
right.
I work for Motor Racing Network. We're the radio arm of NASCAR, and so when I saw that, it's typically it's a small industry like a lot of industries. Right. You hear things, but that was a surprise.
Yeah. I had no idea. I was a couple days late on. I saw it in the paper. That's how that worked. 3-4 days after breaking. But yeah, I was kind of surprised because he's done just a fantastic job.
Absolutely. Yeah. He he's done amazing things with that. And at one time he was, you know, overseeing a couple tracks at the same time, and he's just done a lot in the industry. And it's going to be a loss. It's going to be tough shoes to fill.
And now, how's NASCAR season look? Is that how that works? Is it like
it's a season?
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
it's the 75th season, so there's been a lot of celebration around that. So yeah, it's been pretty cool. We started in LA at the Coliseum for the second year. Crazy to be, you know, big cup cars on this little quarter-mile track. I happened to go to a sports radio conference in LA about a month after, and I had never seen it before. And just to go there and think, oh my gosh, how did these cars drive around this?
Yeah.
Well, it's in essence a football stadium.
Yeah.
Although a little bigger than that. It was built for the Olympics, so it, you know, it's got, you know,
A little bit bigger, but not-
than your typical football stadium. But man, the innovation that has happened since Ben Kennedy, who is fourth generation now of the France family that started NASCAR. The innovation that he's brought to the table, and his team and others in the sport, has just been amazing over the last 5 years, even prior to the pandemic. And then to be able to get back racing so quickly and getting cars on the track, you know, basically in about 6 weeks after we're sent home. There's just this feeling of collaboration across the sport that I don't think has been there in decades.
Yeah.
So.
Does NASCAR seem to be growing in popularity?
So yeah, it's you know, there was about a 10-year lull there.
Yeah.
To be frank with you, you know, the day that Dale Earnhardt Sr. passed really was a seminal moment in the sport, and there's people that's never come back. You know, it broke their hearts so bad they just never came back.
Yeah, it's
so
tragic.
you know, and then like any sport, there's changes. Superstars leave and whatnot. But yeah, over the last couple of years, with a lot of the initiatives that the sport's been doing, we really a lot of growth in the African American population and the Hispanic population that are, you know, coming out to the races, and it's really been a cool thing to see. People discovering the sport for the first time.
Well, and that's what I love. The diehard is probably like the best way to describe NASCAR fans. They know the ins and outs, and they're so passionate about it. So it's even more so than other sports, really.
So it's interesting. The NASCAR fan is the most loyal of any professional sports fans by leaps and bounds. They know how much money it takes to run a team, and they support the sponsors that support the sport. So I think that's a bigger bond than somebody who's just a Cowboys fan. I'm a Cowboys fan, right. Because of just that knowledge and knowing what it takes, and just the investment of their time and their heart into the sport. So yeah, it's the diehards are awesome. We love them. One of the things that I always say is that, you know, you can see it on TV, and it just looks like another sport. But when you go, the size of it as compared to a baseball game or a football game or a basketball game or a hockey game is just so immense. And you'll become a fan. It's a circus. It really is. It's awesome.
And you think of a place like Watkins that we were talking about. I mean, it's like going to a rock concert, really.
Oh, for sure.
And the amount of people that can fit into that place, it's amazing.
So on race day at Watkins Glen, on race day, it is the 5th or 6th largest city in the state of New York.
Isn't that crazy? I know.
That's how many people are there.
Do you have a lot of interaction with the drivers themselves?
So prior to the pandemic, when we were in our offices all the time, we would have people coming in and out for interviews and whatnot, and some of the shows that we produce during the week. But no. Half my team, I lead a team of 3 really awesome ladies, and half of them have not been in the office since 2020.
Isn't that a while?
And it's just, you know, it's interesting. We were all set up, ready to go home because it's a travel company. So we already all had laptops. We already all had cell phones.
Sure.
And we have a VPN, you know, whatever that means to connect to our network and whatnot. So, you know, for computer-wise. So we were all set up, and people got comfortable. They like living at home, like the freedom. And you know, I don't see that changing anytime soon, because we we're having a we're having good years,
Yep.
and people are getting the jobs
So
done. They're happy.
That's all that matters,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's why I'm surprised so many, to like kind of completely change the topic, but that managers are so kind of upset about that, because if you're getting the job done, why does it matter?
In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't.
Right.
But there's that pull of I have all this office space I'm paying for,
Well, yeah.
so I get the economics of it as well.
Sure. But I think since COVID, there's a lot, especially younger people, the days of just getting, like, you're getting paid for your time, right? So you have to be here at this desk. That's not flying anymore.
So that's a shift, right?
Yeah.
So you used to equate time with your pay, but I think now more people are equating their talent and what they bring to the job
agree.
to the pay versus the time.
And as long as they're getting the job done successfully, and it seems like people have really adapted to it. And once you get used to not having to do chores at 6 o'clock when you get home, and you can throw that laundry in, during the day, it is kind of tough to get away from that. I don't know how we got on this topic. You want to stay through the break?
Sure.
All right, we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street. We're being joined by Bob Quick. No one knows why.
I'll tell you why. Because we decided to drive up and spend time with my in-laws this weekend.
See, that's perfect. How'd the race go yesterday?
Well, we drove out of the rain.
Yeah.
We live in the Charlotte area, and that's where the race is this weekend. And it's actually carried by our it's not really competition because we're never on the air at the same time, but it's another company.
Oh, okay.
The Performance Racing Network. And so I just feel for those guys because it's all the same radio people that I work with for our broadcasts, and it just throws a big wrench in a weekend that you'd like to take a third day off,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it got rained out, and it's gonna run later at 3. So the Xfinity race was rained out on Saturday. Saturday was bad. There was no way anything was gonna happen. But yesterday they thought maybe something could happen, but it was just too much rain.
Okay.
And it takes hours to dry those tracks off.
Oh, yeah.
Even with jet dryers and all the technology that they have now, and that's the one thing about racing is you can't run in the wet. You just can't. Not on a big track, a mile and a half or bigger. They do have rain tires for the Glen and whatnot, but even so, it's just wet weather tires. You can't run in a downpour. It becomes ice.
Yeah.
To those slicks that they put on the car. So 3 o'clock today on Big Fox.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you like the race courses, the actual road courses more, or the oval?
So to me,
Yeah.
I like the variety because I think if it was just one style, it would be boring after a while. It's a long season. It's 11 months.
Yeah.
I mean, 39, 40 events.
Wow, really?
Over 11 months. So to me, if it wasn't varied like that with the short tracks and with the road courses, with the super speedways and the intermediates, I mean, they even run on dirt in Bristol once a year. Without that variety, I think it would get a little stale, and it would be too long of a season.
And it seems like the drivers like that change of pace too.
Well, it's funny.
Some love it.
So
It's
back in the day,
Yeah.
so Rusty Wallace,
Yeah.
who is known far and wide around here because for years they would have his birthday party at the at Painted Post at the Holiday Inn.
Yeah,
I
that's
guess it
right.
was a Holiday Inn at the time.
That's funny. I forgot about
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Because he was a beer guy.
Yeah.
He was sponsored by Miller, and back in his day, these guys are like road course. It would be like they pull in road course ringers. They do all this stuff because they didn't care, right? And that was the weekend that they took off. Even though they were working and racing. But now these young guys, I mean, they grew up with it, with simulators in their house and whatnot, and so I mean, it's very competitive. And to me, Watkins is near and dear to my heart anyway.
Of course.
But it's like a super speedway. It's one of the fastest road courses out there. Would I like to see him run the boot?
Yeah.
I think I would like to see him do it once.
Yeah.
But there's something to be said about that's a long course then. It's over 3 miles at that point, almost 3.5. and that just takes a lot of time. It drops the laps down. So I think it's good the way it is. But that's, to me, it's like watching a race at a state park.
Yeah.
It's absolutely
It's
beautiful and fun. You can walk around. It's great.
Do you get to go to a lot of races?
So you would think, no, I work in the office. If there's a reason for me to travel, I travel. But I've been to 14 tracks, I think,
okay.
out of the schedule. Yeah.
You try to make it up to Watkins, don't you?
When
seems
it
like
works
you're
in
in
my
the town. Yeah,
family
yeah,
schedule,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
But there's typically no real business reason for me to be
okay.
there.
Okay. Yeah. You just tell the boss I have to go to Watkins.
Yeah,
every
yeah,
day.
yeah.
All right, let's take another short break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, I swear we'll talk about the debt ceiling. How about, you want to talk about the debt
Sure,
ceiling?
why not?
All right, we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
If I have one.
You don't have an opinion on the debt ceiling?
Uninformed opinion. How's that?
Okay, that's no. I don't think anybody has quite a great opinion on it. Quite, yeah, we'll get there, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. We'll keep you through this, and then the next break I'll focus on it.
All right.
Okay.
All right,
So far you've been in NASCAR for how long?
8 years.
Has it really been that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you enjoy it?
I love it. It's so, I always tell my son that I've never worked a day in my life. I tell anybody who'll listen, because I have combined one passion, which was radio.
Sure.
I've worked in this market for many years at various stations.
Thank you.
And then throw in my love for racing, you get those two things together. I mean, how can it be terrible? Right?
Do you miss being on air, though, on that side of things?
Well, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't miss it a little bit,
Right.
right?
It's just like riding a bike. It all comes
Yeah,
back.
for sure. Yeah.
It is interesting because I was concerned when obviously this is a little different with TV, but I was nervous that first day because I thought, what if I don't have it? A year and a half, but it doesn't really go away.
No, I don't think it does either. It's like it's a stupid saying, but it's like riding a bike.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, and you get that
comfort
passion
level
for it.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, once I did it 3 hours a day. Like if I'm not, someone said, "Wow, you're really good at that." Yeah, I'm an overnight success. 3 hours a day for 14 years. I better be good at it, or I would have lost the job a long time ago. But it is weird how it gets in your system. We had Elisa on, and same thing. Yeah, she was on with her foreign exchange student.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
And she was on probably the third week of the program, second week, and it's the same thing. You go back and forth like this. Nothing goes away.
No.
So what is the radio aspect to NASCAR that you deal with specifically?
So technically, my title is Director of Radio Partnerships.
Okay.
And that just means that we deal with all the radio stations, the 500 radio stations that carry
wow.
our programming. We also prospect for new markets.
Sure.
We've been in this market for 50 years.
Yeah.
53 years since 1970.
Wow.
Currently, we work with WELM.
Sure.
But we've worked at a couple different stations here. But yeah, it's just working with people, dealing with people, helping people.
Do you ever, since you were on the on-air side of things and the technical side of things, do you ever want to offer suggestions to the broadcast? Yeah. You can do this better.
So, actually, with some of the people that I have real good relationships with, they'll call me and, I'm thinking about doing this.
Yeah.
Have you ever run into that before? And if I have, I can at least be a sounding board. If I don't, maybe I can find some information for them to point them in the right direction.
Yeah. So I normally this is where I'd ask, how can people find out more? But do you even care?
MRN.com.
There you go. Well, Bob Quick has been our guest. Bob, thanks for being on the show.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to talk about the debt ceiling coming up. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking. Thank you for spending your Memorial Day morning with us. I want to thank Gary Smith from the Steuben County Veterans Services Agency for being our guest, as well as Bob Quick, talking a little bit about NASCAR just for fun. Let's wrap up the program and talk more about the debt ceiling negotiations. Really, it sounds like no one's that happy, but that's really what negotiations are about. Biden said it takes the catastrophic default off the table. Democrats seem to be very upset over it, actually acknowledging the fact that it seems as if they didn't win, but urging their members to vote yes anyway. According to congressional reporter, Max Cohen, former House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer, has been urging his colleagues to vote yes despite some of the misgivings. Quote, "Despite these setbacks, we must save the American economy from Republicans' irresponsible and radical plans to impose a damaging default. The failure to do so would have catastrophic impacts on every American, every family, and the global economy. We cannot allow the American people to shoulder the dire consequences of Republicans' inability and unwillingness to govern. Ooh, a lot of rhetoric there. It's kind of tough to get someone to vote for something when you're talking that way. Now, I understand the earliest that they'll vote is tomorrow, but it doesn't sound like that's a likelihood either. So at some point this week, but already Representative Rosendale is a vote no. You've had quite a few people coming out and vote no. He said it's an insult to the American people. The D.C. swamp has proposed the largest debt ceiling increase in our nation's history, adding $4 trillion to the existing $31 trillion in national debt. The Fiscal Irresponsibility Act fails to cut spending and continues to fund the Democrats and Biden administration's radical agenda. That coming from Republican Representative Matt Rosendale from Montana. Kevin McCarthy said that Jeffries told him, Hakeem Jeffries, that not one thing in this bill is for Democrats, but they're going to support it anyway. Now, Jeffries is denying that he ever said that, but McCarthy said, I wanted Congress to work differently and treat Hakeem the way I wanted to be treated. We could disagree. I want him to know about everything. Everything is not political. Every time there's an agreement and negotiation between the president and Congress, both parties come together and vote for the bill. Both of them talk about it. I don't work with Hakeem to say, I need this many votes. I think you will get a majority voting for the bill because it's a good bill. The president agreed. There'll be a lot of Democrats that will vote for it. Now, again, Jeffries denies that he said that he lost or that Democrats have nothing in this bill. He said, I have no idea what McCarthy is talking about, particularly because I have not been able to review the actual legislative texts and that we've reached an agreement in principle. Now, it did, according, and I mentioned this earlier in the program, Miranda Devine said that it comes up short when McCarthy vowed to rein in the IRS. And they did campaign. A lot of Republicans campaigned on reining in the IRS because there's so much money going to them. There was even armed agents being hired. It got very strange. To be fair, the House Speaker has a razor-slim majority, and Republicans don't control the Senate, where Mitch McConnell and his sidekick, Lindsey Graham, have announced that the only thing they care about is Ukraine. This, again, Miranda Devine, not me. But McCarthy's one deal breaker should have been his promise to defund Biden's massive $80 billion to turbocharge an already weaponized IRS. Yes, if you look at the IRS, it has become weaponized. It is very scary, the power they have and how they wield it politically. So that was a piece at New York Post, if you want to look for that, by Miranda Devine. We'll keep you updated on all of the information with the debt ceiling as it unfolds. Obviously, lawmakers are out today, but they have 72 hours where it has to be on display per McCarthy. So as soon as they all get together and vote, we'll talk more about it. So join us tomorrow. I can't believe how quick that went. Thanks for joining us on Memorial Day. This is Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV Big Fox. We'll be back tomorrow morning, bright and early, live at 7 a.m. with Frankly Speaking here on Big Fox. Have a great day, everyone. Hi, I'm Frank Acom. Thanks for checking out our YouTube page. We'll be uploading each edition of Frankly Speaking 1 week after the original air date. So, let me remind you to watch the live version of Frankly Speaking, weekday mornings starting at 7, only on WYDC TV, Big Fox.